Okay, we are moving on to Chapter 5 in our textbook in Furtado. You can see here are my lists of objectives that we're going to do in this video. We're going to review consonants and vowels. Every lecture we're going to go back and review something that we've gone over. We've already introduced the vocabulary for personal pronouns and we've reviewed them once, but now we're going to deal with them more specifically. So what are the vocab, the forms that personal pronouns use, and then the grammar, or how are they actually used in the writing of the Hebrew Old Testament. We'll talk about the definite article, and we'll talk about how it's used and what form it takes. We'll go through, I can't remember which we're going to do first, either vocab or read the text, but we'll have some time. I'm going to just read through a couple of verses, I think 2 verses of the Old Testament, and that'll be some examples of pronunciation, and I'll point out shavas, dageshes, definite articles, pronouns, and the like. So let's review our consonants. I have them all listed here, and I'll go through them in order. So aleph is silent. Beit makes a v sound or a b sound if it has the dagesh. Gimel makes a g sound, hard g sound, g. Dalet makes that d sound. Hey is an h sound. Vav makes the v sound. Zayin makes the z sound. Chet makes that ch sound. Tet makes a T sound. Yod makes that Y sound. Chaf, so there's 2 forms here. This is the final form. The final form here. This is the form if it's in the middle of a sentence. And Chaf is a begad kefat letter, so it can either make a CH sound, or if it has a weak dagesh, a dagesh lene, it makes that harder K sound. And by the way, even if a begad kefat has the dagesh forte or strong dagesh, it still changes the pronunciation. So anytime you have a dagesh, you're at least changing the pronunciation of begad kefat. Lamed is L sound. Here's mem, making that M sound. Here we have the non-final form, and here's the final form if it's at the last letter of a word, last consonant. Nun makes the N sound. Again, we have non-final and final forms. Samek makes that S sound. Ayin is a silent letter. Pei, here we have the non-final form and final form. It's also begad kefat, so without the dagesh in it, it makes the F sound. With a dagesh in it, it makes the P sound. Sade makes that TS sound, and this again we've got a non-final form and a final form. Kof makes a Q or a harder K sound. Resh, R sound. Sin makes that S sound. Sheen is the SH sound. Tav makes a T sound. Okay, and then just to review our vowels, we classified them by sound and by length. So our A-class vowels, long is the kametz hey, medium is the kametz, short is the patak, very short is the chatef patak. And again, you have a consonant here, so let's just choose a random samek. Our I-class vowels, the long is the hirek yod. The medium is the tzere, that makes that A sound. The short, you have 2 short E-class vowels or I-class vowels. You have the hirek and the segol. So a hirek makes the E sound, hirek. A segol makes that short E sound. So this would be se. This would be si. This would be say. And then we have the chatef, segol, and the very short. So again, you'd have a consonant up here. Our long O or U class vowel, we have 2. We have a cholam vav so this would be so. And we have a shurek, which would make su. Our medium O class vowel is a holum, so this would be so. Again, we have two short O class vowels. We have a kibbutz, which makes the U sound. And we have the kametz hatuf, makes that ah sound. And then we have a chatef kametz as the very short O class vowel. So those are our vowels, and the further along we go, the better it is that you know these. That's why we're reviewing them so much. All right, so that's some review. Now we're going to get into personal pronouns. So pronouns are words that stand in for nouns to avoid repetition. And so if, instead of repeating over and over again, Brian said to Mandy something, and then the next sentence, Brian said something else to Mandy, we substitute pronouns. So we would say he said to her. So that's in English. Okay, you may say this is very basic stuff, but you just never know. So the he and the her here are pronouns, so they help us to avoid repetition. No, I don't need that. So you've already learned the vocab for the personal pronouns in Hebrew, but we'll go over them. We'll start here in the top right. We have who. Who is for he or it, so it's our 3ms, third masculine singular pronoun. He is for she or a feminine noun, it. We call that third person feminine singular. Ata, ata. Here we have our second person. So second person is a you. That's in English as well. We just classify this as second person. Second person masculine singular is ata. So here we have a strong dagesh in the middle there. So it doubles the sound, so it's ata, atsta, atsta. You don't have to stutter it over it like that. I'm just trying to emphasize it there. Our next one is at, which is our second person. So it's saying you. It's talking to a feminine object, and it's singular. It's only talking about one of them. So even though we've got a shavah here that is preceded by, well, yeah. So you're good to go. It's silent because it ends the word. I need to go up here. So now in our first person singular is ani or anochi. Anochi. So I did a little research. One of you asked, is this formal versus less formal? And I came up with the same answer I had before. We don't know, basically, although it is likely, the theory is that things started longer and then they moved to abbreviation. Particularly this form of the first person pronoun shows up in texts that we believe are written later. But you can also have scribes go back and update things. So, but we're going to encounter both of these for first person. Common, meaning there's not a different pronoun for male or female if you're saying I, and singular. So ani and anochi. To move over into our plural, our masculine they is heim or hema. Heim or hema. The accent is here. Hema. And that's our third person masculine plural, 3MP pronoun. Hena. Hena is our third person feminine plural pronoun. So we would translate both of these they. But I mean, in Hebrew, you're going to be encountering these in, they'll be dealing with different nouns, so they have to match up with whatever noun they're replacing. Into the second person plural, we have atem, atem. So that's that short e sound there with the sagol. Atem. That's our second person masculine plural. So that's you. Unfortunately, in English, standard English, you singular and you plural are the same. However, there's a lot of colloquialisms for you plural, like y'all or yins or you guys. As we go through the course, feel free to use y'all or yins, depending on what part of the country you are, to help you differentiate that I'm talking about a plural subject there. To move into the second person feminine plural, this is attain, attain, and atena, atena. So again, the accent, the stress is here, atena, as opposed to the normal, normally it's on the last syllable. This is second person feminine plural, so this is y'all feminine. And then finally down here, we have anachnu, anachnu. And this is first person, so it's talking about the actor themselves. It's common, doesn't differentiate by gender, and plural, so in English we translate it as we. Okay, so those are the forms of the personal pronouns introduced in the vocab of Lesson 4. Here in Chapter 5, we're actually going to talk about how they're used. So in English, if you look at my examples up here, we can use these similar personal pronouns, not the same, but similar personal pronouns in the subject of a sentence and the predicate. So to take you back to elementary school English, the subject of the sentence is the person doing the action of the verb, and then the verb starts the predicate, which is what is done. So you have subject, predicate. So it's a very simple way of dividing up a sentence. In Hebrew, these personal pronouns that you've just learned up here only occur in the subject of the sentence. Okay, so they're only going to be relating to who did the action. So here I have, well, I kind of messed up. I've obscured that. So let me just say it's only in the subject of a sentence. So in these English sentences I have here, we're only talking about these pronouns. So for their Hebrew equivalent. So this would be like ani and hu. So they're not going to be in the predicate. So I gave us some examples here of English pronouns used in the predicate. So they come after the verb, which here is, here is told. So we're not going to find Hebrew, these pronouns that we just learned in the predicate part of the sentence. And that'll be helpful for us in translation because of this next point that we have to make, which is the word order in Hebrew is variable. So that means, in English, we generally know the function of a word based on where it is in the sentence. Is it early on? Is it later? Hebrew, like Greek and other languages, can switch these things up a little bit more than potentially we're used to. So here we have two vocab terms that you know. So we have father, I. Now you might be tempted, because again we're reading from right to left, you might be tempted to think, oh, I know this is saying father, oh, maybe this is my. No, that would be to make it possessive, things like that. No, this is I am a father. So in English we have to add this to be verb here. But in this example we have the pronoun after the noun. But here in the second example, we have the pronoun first. So anochi el, anochi el. Well, this is I am God. Please understand I'm using this as an example, not as an autobiographical statement. I am not God. So here, these examples are showing you can have the pronoun after, or you can have the pronoun before. And here's another example of it being before. Ata melech. Ata melech. You are king. Or you could say a king, if you can read my writing. Tell you what, I'll give it another shot. Even though I just said it, you just never know. You get judged all the time. You are a king. So again, the point here of these is to show you that the word order can change. But that's why it's important to remember that these pronouns are only part of the subject. They're only related to who's doing the action. What thing are we predicating? Are we adding or describing or doing whatever we're doing with the sentence? They only are in the subject. And finally, they agree, and we're going to see this a lot. That the subject, the pronoun, is going to agree in gender and number with the predicate. So with what we're saying of the thing. And so here we have two words. We have she or it. So this is our third person feminine singular personal pronoun. And here we have ir, which is a city, a city. So we might say it is a city, perhaps as an example of a question of what do I see on the horizon or something like that. Oh, it is a city. And I use this one here because one of the things we talked about was those irregular nouns that don't have the expected endings for gender. So ir is a feminine noun, and we would expect it to be marked with a kametz he or a tav or something like that at the end, but it's not. So actually having these pronouns helps us out. Now we still need to remember that it's feminine because that'll clarify it's referring to ir and not some other later perhaps feminine noun in the sentence. But still, it's going to help us out. But the pronoun we're using, and that to be more of a highlighter, the pronoun we're using has to agree in gender and number with the noun to which it's referring or that it's paired with or that it's replacing. And so here we have a feminine singular pronoun attached to a feminine singular noun. Here's another example, melek ata. So I just switched around this one to make here because word order doesn't matter. So this is you are a king. You are a king. This is a masculine singular noun, and it's a masculine singular pronoun that is paired with it. Again, we've got agreement in gender, which is masculine or feminine, and number, which is singular or plural. And here we have at, malka, at, malka. So this is you are a queen. Here we have a feminine singular pronoun. Here we have a feminine singular noun. So the word order is going to vary. That's why we need to remember that these personal pronouns only appear in the subject of the sentence, and they are going to agree in gender and number with what they predicate. That is what is then added to them. So here we have the subject of this sentence, and here we have the predicate, subject, predicate, subject, predicate. All right, so those are the personal pronouns. A lot of times they're used, this is just a little bonus, they're used for emphasis, and they're used a lot to clarify or disambiguate. It's just a fancy word for saying to clarify. Clarify who's doing the action in a clause or a statement or something like that. As we're going to learn about verbs next. In the next chapter, verbs are already marked for who's doing the action, so if you do have a pronoun in there, it tends to be, hey, you need to know that it's the Lord, He is God, that kind of thing, that the emphasis happens, or to disambiguate what's going on. All right, so now we can add the definite article, and again, what we're doing here, these chapters, we're just adding building blocks so that we can come to understand and read and interpret Hebrew. So we've added consonants, vowels, which helps to make up words, dageshes, which help us to understand pronunciation, along with shavaz. And these are important for syllabification. What are the syllables? Things like that. And now we've added pronouns. Oh, we also had nouns last in the last chapter. So now we've added pronouns, and here we're adding the definite article. So next, that says article. Just believe me, it says article. I have to write it. I'm compelled to write it. And then the next lecture, we're going to learn verbs, and then we're going to start to put sentences together. All right, so the definite article. Definite article is the. That's in English how we understand, how we interpret. This is what we use for the definite article. It's the difference between saying a cat or a king and the king. It adds definition to which one of those that might fit into this category. We're talking about one of those, that one, the. So in Hebrew, there is no, sorry, in English, we have words for an indefinite article. A king, an apple, things like that. Hebrew does not have an additional word for an indefinite article. It has certain ways of singling things out that you can learn about later, but there's not a set word for the indefinite article. What it does have is one particle, one suffix, or sorry, prefix that functions as the definite article, as the. And so this is really helpful, and if you've taken Greek, you know this, but in Greek there are like 24 definite articles that you need to learn. In Hebrew, there's one definite article. So here, Hebrew wins the Hebrew-Greek debate. And what, again, what it does is it's a prefix added to the beginning of a word, and we'll talk about that here. But it changes that word from being indefinite, a king, or just perhaps king, to being definite, the king, the person doing this, or whatever. So the form that the definite article takes is, again, it's a prefix on a word. So it's this little particle that's added to the front of a word, and it consists in three parts: a hey, a patak under the hey, and then a strong dagesh in the first consonant of the word. So here we have the word sus, which means horse. But if I add these elements of the definite article, hey, patak, strong dagesh, then it changes from a horse to the horse. Similarly, davar is word, matter, or thing. But if I add this different elements, then it becomes the word. Now, this dagesh here now changes from being a weak dagesh, because this is a Bagad Kafat letter, to now it is preceded by a vowel, so the sound ha, and that changes it to a strong dagesh, so it would be haddavar now. Just like up here, it's hasus, 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 because we have that strong dagesh, doubles the sound. Melech, melech becomes hamelech, hamelech, the king. Yom, a day or day, oops, I need to move this over. A day or day becomes hayom, hayom, the day. Here we have malchut, malchut for kingdom. And if we add our three elements, a hey, a patak, and a strong dagesh in the first consonant, we get the kingdom. Okay, so it's these three elements, this hey, a patak underneath the hey right there, and then a strong dagesh in the first consonant of the word. That's how it changes from being indefinite, as in a something, or just rather something, to the something. So here we changed from a horse to the horse, word to the word, king to the king, a day or day to the day, and so on. So it's fairly simple as things go in Hebrew, But before we get too excited, of course, we have to deal with an exception. Now, in, I think it was the last chapter or the chapter before that, we learned the first guttural rule, which is gutturals do not take dogish. So they just don't do it. They can't double their sound. It's just, and here we have, this is just the written Hebrew mirroring pronunciation. It's hard to double a silent letter or something that's already back in the back of your throat. So what does Hebrew do with that? Well, there are two options for it. And again, the scribes who are writing this, we got to remember that so much of the Old Testament was, we believe, oral originally. So it's representing spoken language. It's not like they were sitting around and saying, oh, let's just make up a language and how to write it. No, it's trying to capture the sound of spoken language. So this is why we're dealing with these problems. The two ways to deal with that. One is called virtual doubling. This is for nouns beginning with a he or a chet. What happens, so here's some nouns. I don't think you've learned any of them yet, but here we have heichal, heichal. So here we have a noun that's beginning with he. And so to make it definite, we do the he, the patak. We try to do the dagesh, but then the he says, hey, I'm a guttural. I can't take a dagesh. And so the definite article says, okay, we'll just pretend. We'll just pretend that I've been doubled. So this is called virtual doubling. Har is mountain, so we just have hahar, hahar. Choshek, choshek, darkness here. Again, we just pretend that it's happening. So there's no dagesh that we would expect in the first consonant here. But we just have virtual doubling, as if it had been doubled. So these are, so here we have hachok, hachok, and hachesed, hachesed. So this is for he and chet. We have virtual doubling. The second option is called compensatory lengthening, and so this is for the other gutturals, aleph and ayin, and the guttural's good friend who likes to tag along, resh. Here what happens is, so this word is ish, it means man or husband. The he comes along to attach it. We're talking about the man, right? We're talking about the man. And so the he, the patak, and just when the dagesh wants to go in the aleph rejects it. And let's see, can we do a little dynamic little wee? And it falls down here and it lengthens this vowel. And so that's why it's called compensatory lengthening, to compensate for the fact that the aleph, the ayin, and the resh are not doubled. This vowel gets longer. And so we have ha'ish, ha'ish. Now, we're learning modern Israeli pronunciation, so there's no difference in the pronunciation here. But as we're reading the text and we see this he and kamet starting this word, because we see an aleph here, we can say, aha, this is the definite article, just with compensatory lengthening. Same here with the word or for light. We get the dagesh is rejected, and so we get the vowel is lengthened to compensate. Ha'ir is going to be the same way. So here we had an ayin. The dagesh is rejected, and so we get this lengthening of the patak to a kametz, and ra'ah here similarly. So here we have ha'ish, ha'or, ha'ir, hara'ah, hara'ah. And so they sound the same, except we don't get the doubling of the first consonant. Now on page 26, Futato talks about a couple of special circumstances. So if you have a he with a kametz already under it, you have a chet with a kametz already under it, or you have an ayin with a kametz already under it, then the definite article still is that he, but takes a segol instead. And we're going to see this happen where the gutturals, and that's why it's important that we know what are gutturals. They're aleph, they're ayin, they're hey, they're het, and then there's their buddy resh. They like to change things up just because of the difficulty, and we may or may not experience this difficulty, but with pronouncing certain things, the verbalized language adapted to it. And what we're going to see in the text is we're going to often see these consonants put pressure on the consonants that come before them. And these arrows aren't meant like the hey puts pressure on an ayin. No. It's just whatever consonant is coming before them, it's going to put pressure on it to change because of the difficulty in pronouncing these particular consonants. So we're going to see vowel changes often happen in that. And so here we have a compensatory lengthening of a different kind. Instead of just the dagesh being rejected and it lengthening this vowel, we have the vowel change from being a patak with a strong dagesh to just being the sigol. So we get hey Hamas, and hey Hamas, excuse me about that, and hey Avim. All right, so just to go back, I mean, the definite article is very simple. It's that hey, patak, and dagesh, and it's just going to be, when we see hey beginning a word, we just need to train ourselves to ask the question, hey, am I looking at a definite article here? And if I see the patak and the strong dagesh, like I do here, then yes. If I just see a patak and it's followed by a hey or a chet, then yes, I'm dealing with a definite article. Or if I'm dealing with some gutturals, then I might expect to see some changes. But just to remember that the core of what we're talking about is this hey, patak, strong dagesh in the first consonant. All right, and you're going to have practice there in the textbook with Futado, and you're going to have practice on the worksheet that I provide. We're going to go down here, and I'm going to read the text here and do my best to spot some things for us. So this is Vayomer, Elohim, Zot. So here we talked in our conversation about sometimes the aleph is shy. It likes to act as if it's not really there. It quiesces, and so it doesn't have a vowel attached to it. It just is kind of holding this vowel for the zayin. So zot. Ot haberit. And here we have a hey, a patak, and a strong dagesh in the first consonant here, and so this is a definite article for us. And then we need to figure out the shava. Well, it came upon the dagesh first. Is the dagesh strong or weak? It's preceded by the sound of a vowel, so it's strong, and the shava then becomes vocal, because a shava under a strong dagesh is vocal. Asher, ani. So what is this? Ani is I. It's our first common singular pronoun, and it's always going to be the subject. So you don't know a lot of these words yet, but what you do know from looking at this is, oh, I am doing something. The speaker is doing something in this. Notain, beini, ubeinechem, ubein, kol nefesh. Now you notice that I pronounced this as a kametz hatuf. That's because it's in a closed syllable. We have consonant, vowel, consonant here. It's a closed syllable, and it's unaccented. Well, how do I know it's unaccented? Because the makef here shifts the accent away from this word onto the second word. It's like hyphen. So this is kol. It's one of the most common kametz hatufs you're going to see. Kol nefesh. Chaya. Chaya. Asher. Itechem. So I Probably heard me sneak in the sound of a vocal shava there because we have a strong dagesh. It's preceded by a vowel, the sound of a vowel, so it's strong, which means a shava under a strong dagesh is vocal. So this is itechem, itechem, ledorot, ledorot, olam, olam. So that's Genesis 9:2. It's when the Lord is speaking about the covenant. Berit is the word covenant in Hebrew. The covenant that he is going to make with Noah, that he is giving rather, notain is giving, to Noah's sons and their sons, and the sons of all living souls or living flesh or whatever, however you want to say that. Another text that I'll read here is Deuteronomy 4:10b. Asher yilmedun, yilmedun. So here we have two shavas. All right, this shava. There's a number of ways to know what's going on here. First of all, we have two shavas back to back, which means the first one does the walking, it's silent. The second one does the talking, it's vocal. Also, we know this one is silent because it's preceded by a short vowel. So, yilmedun, yilmedun. Here we have two shavas, but they're not back to back. So, this first shava is going to be vocal because it begins the word. So, you got to have a sound there. The second shava is going to be silent because it's preceded by the hirek, the short vowel. So, this is going to be la yira. La yira, sorry, la yira, la yira, la yira. Oti, kol, we talked about this up here. This is the most common kametz hatuf you're going to see in this word, kol, kol hayamayim, sorry, kol hayamim. My brain is tired. Kol hayamim. And here again, we have a hey, a patak. Oh, can't tell that's a hey. I'm going to just draw over this. You have a hey, patak, strong dagesh. So here we have the definite article for you. Asher haim. Oh, we just learned about this word. Haim is the what? Third masculine plural for what in English? They. And because it is a personal pronoun in Hebrew, it's always going to be the subject. So they are doing something here. Chayim, chayim. Now, we might think, oh, it's another definite article, but it's not, because it's a chet, right? It's not a hey, it's a chet. Al ha'adama, ha'adama. Here we have a definite article, because we have a hey, and instead of a patak and a strong dagesh, the dagesh has gotten rejected, and we have the kametz. So that's compensatory lengthening right there. That's another definite article. Ve'et benihem, sorry, benehem, benehem. And this is yelamedun, yelamedun. So this is a strong dagesh, it doubles the sound, and the shava is vocal because it begins the word. And this is actually Deuteronomy reflecting. Oh, this is talking about when the people were in the wilderness. Okay, so let's talk about the vocab here. This vocabulary is provided for you on page 26 of the textbook. Here we have Adam, Adam, which is man or Adam, could be a proper noun. Ish, Ish, this is man or husband. Isha, Isha, this is woman or wife, and notice the typical feminine ending here, the kametz hey, and how it's related to ish, so it's not the same. We've got some reduction going on here, but we've got ish and isha. Bayit, bayit is house or temple, and the accent is here. Bayit, bayit on the first syllable. Derech, derech is this last one, or the fifth one here, and the accent is here. It's a segelit noun. It's segel, segel, two segels. Kohen, kohen. This is the word for priest. Somebody spotted that in our last online conversation. Halach, 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 halach. He walked or he went. This is a fun one. Clears the throat. Lakach, lakach. To take or seize. He took, he seized. Natan, natan. He gave or presented. Shama, shama, which is he heard. And as the note Furtado has underneath that on page 26, it could also mean obey. We can talk about that.